All right, so welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Hmm.
And today we're tackling something, I think a lot of people struggle with. That feeling of unworthiness.
Oh, yeah,
That sense that no matter what we do, it's never enough.
definitely.
And to help us kind of unpack this, we're going to be looking at a YouTube video by Aeina
Okay.
called Why You Feel Unworthy
Yeah.
and How to Shift It.
Hmm.
And, I watched this video and it really got me thinking about, just how common this feeling is
Yeah,
and
definitely.
how it can really hold us back in life.
Hmm.
One of the things that really stood out to me in the video was the emphasis on early childhood experiences,
Right.
specifically those years between 0 and 7.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He only makes this point that we're born like blank canvases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just absorbing everything around us.
Makes sense.
And those early interactions, the way we're treated by our caregivers,
Yeah.
really shape our sense of self-worth.
Coordinate.
It's like we're unconsciously creating this blueprint for how we see ourselves.
It really is. It's like a foundation that everything else is built upon, you know?
And it's so interesting because we don't even have the words to articulate it at that age.
Right, right.
But it's still having such a profound impact.
And she actually had a really powerful example in the video talking about this trauma doctor
Oh, yeah.
who had, a very successful career,
Right.
but still carried this deep sense of unworthiness that stemmed from being separated from his mother during World War II.
Wow.
And it's like, even though that separation, might have been intended for his safety,
Right.
it still left this lasting impact on his sense of self-worth.
That story was really powerful.
It is.
Because it makes you realize that even well-intentioned actions
Yeah,
can have these unintended consequences.
definitely.
And it made me think about my own childhood.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
What messages did I receive during those early years?
What were the messages that we all received, right?
And how are they still shaping me today? And this leads us to another really interesting concept that Aeina brings up in the video,
Okay.
which is the 5 crucial developmental needs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't have time to go into detail about each of these needs,
Right.
but the basic idea is that if these needs weren't met in childhood,
Yeah,
it can contribute to those feelings of unworthiness later in life.
it makes sense.
So I'm really curious, can you just give us a quick overview of what these 5 needs are?
So the 5 needs are the need for connection,
Okay.
attunement, autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
safety and security, and love and belonging.
Wow.
And, think about it. If you're a child and you consistently have your emotional needs dismissed,
Yeah.
or you're constantly being criticized,
Okay.
that's going to lead to, a belief that your feelings aren't valid
Makes sense.
or that you're somehow fundamentally flawed.
Right. So it's like those early experiences plant these seeds.
Yeah.
And if those seeds weren't nurtured with the right kind of care,
Yeah.
they might grow into something, weedy,
Right.
difficult to manage.
Absolutely.
And that kind of brings us to the next idea, which is this concept of the shadow self,
The shadow self. Mm-hmm.
which Aeina talks about.
Yeah.
And I was really intrigued by this because it sounds like this hidden part of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
where we tuck away the aspects that we believe are unacceptable
Right.
or unlovable.
Exactly.
So it's almost like we're hiding this part of
Yeah.
ourselves that we're ashamed of.
Yeah.
Stuffing it in the back of the closet and hoping no one finds it.
It's a great analogy. Yeah.
So, can you give me an example? What would that look like in real life?
Imagine like a young boy
Okay.
who loves to dance,
Mm-hmm.
like express himself creatively through dance,
Yeah.
but his family's constantly telling him,
Oh.
boys don't dance. So to avoid that disapproval
Yeah.
or ridicule,
Yeah.
he learns to suppress that part of himself,
Right.
pushes it down into the shadows.
So what kind of impact does that have on him, as he grows up?
I mean, it can lead to this deep sense of incongruence.
Right.
Like he's constantly wearing a mask,
Mm-hmm.
hiding his true self from the world.
And that can lead to feelings of
Emptiness,
emptiness.
a lack of purpose,
Yeah.
and unworthiness.
Unworthiness because at a core level, he's not allowing himself to be fully seen
Right.
and accepted for who he truly is.
Right.
That
Yeah.
authentic self.
Makes sense. So it's almost like he's created this prison
Yeah,
for a part of himself
exactly. And then we wonder why we feel trapped.
and unworthy.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to understand and integrate our shadow selves.
Mm-hmm.
Because those suppressed parts, they don't just go away.
Right.
They can manifest in unhealthy ways, like
Yeah.
self-sabotaging behaviors,
Oh.
unhealthy relationships, even physical ailments.
That makes me think about what Aina was talking about with attracting those narcissistic partners and collaborators.
Right.
It's like her own unworthiness was being reflected back to her through those relationships. It's like our internal state creates our external reality.
It really is.
And, this speaks to a larger point she makes about how unworthiness can become this cycle.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is, yeah.
It feels so ingrained, though. Like, how do we break free from that?
Well, it's not easy, but it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Once we recognize how it's playing out in our lives, then we can start to make different choices.
So it's not just about, like, thinking positive thoughts. It's about actually taking action.
Exactly.
Okay, so, like, what kind of actions?
Well, it could involve setting boundaries in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
pursuing our passions,
Yeah.
or speaking up for ourselves when we feel unheard.
So it's like we're aligning our actions with our desire to feel worthy,
Yes, exactly.
showing up for ourselves in a real way.
It's about self-respect.
Yeah.
I like that.
You know?
And it makes me think about that distinction that Aeina makes between being nice and being kind.
Yes.
She really emphasizes the importance of prioritizing our own needs and moving away from people-pleasing.
Because so often we're just trying to be nice because we're afraid of rejection, right?
It's true.
But true kindness comes from a place of self-love.
Yeah, self-respect.
It's about honoring our own needs.
Setting healthy boundaries.
And sometimes that means disappointing others.
Yeah, and that can be hard,
It can.
especially if you were raised to be the good girl or the nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine how freeing it would be to live from a place of authenticity,
That would be amazing.
to not constantly be trying to mold yourself to fit other people's expectations.
It'd be revolutionary.
It would.
But how do we get there? Like, are there any practical tools or techniques that Aina suggests?
Well, she mentioned a few, but one that I thought was really interesting was this Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
It's a forgiveness ritual,
Okay.
and it involves repeating these 4 simple phrases.
Okay, I'm listening.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Now, I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical of anything that sounds too woo-woo.
I hear you.
But I'm open to hearing more about it. Like, how does this actually help with unworthiness?
Well, it's about taking responsibility for our energy
Okay.
and seeking forgiveness for any harm we may have caused, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
And so it's not just about forgiving others, but also forgiving ourselves.
Exactly.
That's-
And Aeina suggests visualizing your inner child
Ah.
and extending these phrases to that younger version of yourself,
Okay.
acknowledging their pain,
Yeah.
offering compassion, and releasing any guilt or shame that you might be carrying.
It's like reparenting ourselves.
It is.
Giving ourselves that unconditional love and acceptance.
Yeah, that we may not have received as children.
And you mentioned directing these phrases inward toward our inner child. So does that mean we don't use it to forgive others?
No, you can definitely use it for that too.
Right.
It's about releasing those energetic cords that bind us to past hurts,
Mm.
whether those hurts were inflicted by ourselves or by others.
So it's about letting go of that resentment,
Yeah.
making space for healing.
Exactly.
That sounds really liberating.
It is.
It's like we're freeing ourselves from the prison of the past.
I like that. Yeah.
It's interesting how forgiveness keeps coming up in our conversation.
Yeah.
It seems to be a key theme in Aena's approach to healing unworthiness.
Well, I think it's fundamental
Okay.
because often at the root of unworthiness is this belief that we're somehow flawed or broken.
Right.
And forgiveness is the antidote to that belief.
So it's about acknowledging our humanness,
Yes.
embracing our imperfections.
And choosing to love ourselves anyway.
Yeah. That we're worthy of love and forgiveness.
Exactly.
Even when we make mistakes.
It's a radical act of self-love.
Especially in a culture that tells us we need to be perfect
Right.
to be worthy.
All the time.
So forgiveness isn't about condoning hurtful actions.
No.
It's about releasing that pain and resentment,
Letting go.
moving forward with a lighter heart.
Beautifully said.
Let's talk about the most important relationship in your life, the one you have with yourself. If you struggle with boundaries, find yourself in one-sided relationships, or constantly put others' needs before your own, you're not alone. But here's the truth. You deserve to be your own safe place. At Inner Bloom, we help women break free from patterns of self-sacrifice and step into deep self-trust, confidence, and emotional freedom. With over 70 women coaches teaching our courses, we guide you through things like how to set boundaries that honor your worth, understanding attachment styles and healing those unhealthy relationship patterns, and learning how to prioritize yourself without guilt. But Inner Bloom isn't just a place to learn. It's also a thriving community of over 6,000 supportive women who are on this journey with you. And right now, you can get lifetime access to all of our resources in this incredible community for just $97. Visit wellnesscourseforwomen.com or click the link in the description below to learn more about Inner Bloom today.
So we've talked a lot about the inner work involved in healing unworthiness. But is there also a role for, like, external support?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes we need a little help along the way, and
Yeah.
that's where therapists or coaches or even supportive friends and family can come in.
It's like having a guide
Yeah.
to help us navigate all of this.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to do this alone.
Right.
There's strength in reaching out for support
And allowing others to hold space for us.
while we heal.
So it sounds like we don't have to do this alone.
No,
Which is comforting.
definitely.
But is healing unworthiness about reaching some perfect state where you never feel unworthy again?
You know, I don't think it's realistic to think we'll never feel those feelings again.
Right.
We're human,
Mm-hmm.
and self-doubt is just part of the human experience.
So it's more about, like, changing our relationship with those feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Learning to kind of ride the waves, so to speak.
I like that analogy.
Not letting them knock us down completely.
Developing resilience,
Mm-hmm.
self-compassion, and the ability to navigate those emotions without being totally derailed by them.
And Aina actually says we shouldn't try to suppress those feelings at all,
Right.
but instead, like, allow ourselves to feel them fully,
Feel them fully.
which seems counterintuitive, right?
It does.
But then she explains that when we resist our emotions, they tend to get stronger,
They intensify.
like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah, you can only do it for so long.
And eventually it's going to pop back up.
With more force.
Exactly.
So we might as well just let it flow.
So it's about, like, acknowledging those feelings, giving them space,
And maybe even learning something from them.
learning from them.
Yeah, our emotions, they're like messengers.
Oh, interesting.
They're trying to communicate something to us.
So it's like those feelings of unworthiness, they're like a signal.
A signal.
Like, hey, pay attention. There's something here that needs your attention.
Exactly. Maybe an unmet need. A limiting belief. A boundary that needs to be set.
I like that.
Reframing those difficult emotions. Not as enemies to be conquered, but as opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
Self-discovery.
And it makes me think about those, like, negative beliefs that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The ones that we develop in childhood. If those beliefs are like weeds,
Okay.
maybe these feelings are like the flowers that bloom from those weeds,
Interesting.
trying to get our attention
So we can pull them out.
so we can finally get rid of them.
At the root.
And that could be a lifelong process, right?
It can be.
Pulling out those weeds, those deep-seated beliefs.
But as we become more aware of them,
Yeah.
we can challenge them.
And replace them with something better.
More empowering beliefs.
And that makes me think about what Aina said about gratitude. It seems so simple, but she really emphasizes it as this powerful tool
For shifting our perspective.
for cultivating worthiness.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook the power of gratitude.
But when we focus on what we appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
it shifts our energy
From lack to abundance.
from scarcity to joy.
And when we feel those things, it's so much easier to feel worthy.
So it's like we're reminding ourselves of all the good that already exists,
The good that already exists.
both within us and around us.
Exactly.
And that's a powerful antidote to those feelings of not being good enough.
It really is.
It's about recognizing our wholeness,
Our completeness.
just as we are.
We don't have to achieve anything to be worthy.
That's huge.
It's inherent.
Not earned.
Right.
It's powerful.
It is.
So how do we make gratitude like a part of our everyday lives?
Start small.
Okay.
Maybe keep a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Write down a few things each day.
Or just take a few moments
Yeah, in the morning.
to appreciate the simple things.
The warmth of the sun.
Yeah.
The sound of birds
The
singing.
feeling of your breath.
Yeah, just those little moments of beauty.
And appreciating ourselves too, right?
Of course.
Our strengths.
Our accomplishments.
The fact that we showed up for ourselves today.
Exactly. Celebrating all the things that make us who we are.
So this has been a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We've explored the roots of unworthiness, the ways it shows up in our lives.
And most importantly, the tools and practices that can help us heal.
And it's a journey, right?
It is a journey, not a destination.
There will be ups and downs,
There will be.
but the key is to be kind to ourselves along the way.
To keep moving forward,
Yeah.
one step at a time.
So to all of our listeners out there, remember, you are worthy,
You are.
just as you are.
Believe in yourself.
Embrace your unique gifts.
And never stop exploring.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
Keep shining your light.